At Starbound, we tell stories the human way, not with artificial voices or AI slop. In the end, what's HFY without humanity? Subscribe to keep it this way. My name's Aaron. Let's begin.
The negotiation chamber on Score Prime was designed to intimidate. Vaulted ceilings soared 30 meters overhead, carved from obsidian that swallowed light. Holographic star charts flickered along the walls, showing the contested sectors in sharp relief. Systems rich with rare minerals that both species needed, both claimed. Neither would concede. Diplomat John Blackthorne stood alone at the human delegation's table. His team had departed hours ago, recalled by Earth after the third consecutive week of stonewalling. But Blackthorne had demanded, one final audience. One last attempt to pull victory from the jaws of diplomatic failure. Across the chamber, Grand Marshal Kaivar reclined on a raised platform, his segmented armor gleaming like polished steel. The Skorin were tall, angular beings, bipedal but with an extra joint in each limb that gave their movements an unsettling fluidity. Kaivar's face was all sharp planes and angles, with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern that never blinked in unison. "Grand Marshal," Blackthorne began, his voice carrying across the chamber with practiced diplomacy. "The resource-sharing framework I've proposed benefits both our peoples. The Tertius cluster contains enough heavy metals to fuel expansion for both civilizations for 3 generations. Joint extraction, proportional distribution based on proximity and existing claims. It's logical. It's fair. It prevents conflict that neither of us can afford." Kaivar's upper eyes closed while his lower ones remained fixed on Blackthorne, a gesture the diplomat had learned meant contempt.
"You speak of fairness, human, of logic."
The Grand Marshal's voice was a rasp, filtered through a translator that rendered his clicks and harmonics into flat English.
"But your entire diplomatic approach is built on a foundation of weakness. You negotiate as if we are equals. You appeal to shared interests as if we share your concerns."
"We do share interests," Blackthorne pressed. "The Null Expanse threatens both our territories. The pirate confederacies grow bolder. We could be allies."
"You mistake our tolerance for alliance."
Kaivar rose from his platform, his full 3-meter height making Blackthorne feel suddenly small, despite the man's own considerable frame.
"You came to us with gifts, with concessions, with appeals to emotion, to understanding and cooperation. These are the tools of the weak, not the strong."
The Grand Marshal descended the steps with deliberate slowness.
"Your species' great flaw is empathy. You extend compassion to those who do not merit it. You negotiate when you should conquer. You offer partnership to those you should subjugate."
Kaivar stopped 3 meters away, all 4 eyes now focused on Blackthorne.
"The Skorin Empire takes what it requires. The Tertius cluster will be ours. Your protests are irrelevant."
Blackthorne felt the rage building behind his diplomat's mask, but his expression remained neutral. He'd spent 5 years in this role, 3 of them specifically focused on Skorin relations. 5 years of swallowing pride, of turning the other cheek, of believing that reason could triumph over force. "Then these talks are concluded," Blackthorne said quietly.
"They were concluded before they began,"
Kaivar replied.
"You simply refused to accept it. Go home, Diplomat Blackthorne. Tell your High Council that the Skorin Empire will take what we desire, and if humanity stands in our way, we will take that too."
The diplomatic courier was a sleek vessel, built more for speed and secrecy than comfort. Blackthorne sat in the cramped command cabin, reviewing his failure, preparing the report that would end his career. 3 years of careful relationship building, 5 months of actual negotiations, hundreds of hours spent learning Skorin customs, their honor codes, their communication patterns. All of it worthless. Kaivar had been right about one thing. The talks had been a sham from the beginning. The Skorin had never intended to negotiate. They'd simply been buying time. The communication panel chimed. Personal channel, priority 1. Blackthorn's heart clenched. Anya. He activated the link, and his wife's face materialized in the holographic display. But the image was broken, fragmenting, her voice cutting in and out.
Lias, if you're receiving this...
Static consumed her words.
Station Epsilon. They came without warning.
Anya! Blackthorn leaned forward, trying to stabilize the signal. Anya, I can't...
Took the children, John. They took Marcus and...
Her face pixelated, reformed. Fear. Pure fear in her eyes.
They said it was a reevaluation. They said...
The feed died. Blackthorn stared at the empty display, his hands frozen over the controls. Station Epsilon, the neutral outpost where diplomatic families resided during long-term negotiations, where Anya had been waiting for 3 months with their 2 children, where they were supposed to be safe. He was still staring when the official communication arrived. Score an Imperial Diplomatic Corps. Formal transmission. The text scrolled across his screen with bureaucratic efficiency. To Diplomat John Blackthorn, Human Diplomatic Service. Subject: Custody Notification. The Scoran Empire hereby informs you that certain human nationals residing on Station Epsilon have been detained, pending a re-evaluation of humanity's diplomatic stance regarding contested territories. This action is taken in accordance with Article 47 of the Galactic Convention on Diplomatic Conduct. The individuals in question will be released upon satisfactory resolution of outstanding territorial disputes. No further communication on this matter will be entertained. Blackthorn read it 3 times. Each word was precisely chosen, legally defensible, completely ruthless. They'd taken his family, his wife, his children, 9-year-old Marcus, who wanted to be a starship engineer, 6-year-old Elena, who was afraid of the dark. They'd taken them as leverage, as a message, as proof that human empathy was indeed a fatal flaw. His hands were shaking. He pressed them flat against the console until the trembling stopped. Earth Orbital Command hung in geosynchronous orbit above Geneva, a massive station that served as both military headquarters and diplomatic nerve center. Blackthorn's courier docked automatically, the station's systems recognizing his priority clearance. Admiral Jorik was waiting in the debriefing room, a sparse chamber with a single table and chairs that had seen better days. The Admiral was a career officer, 60 years old with iron-gray hair and eyes that had watched too many wars. Stern, but with a reputation for fairness that Blackthorn had always respected.
"Sit,"
Jorik said, not unkindly. Blackthorn sat. He'd spent the 3-day journey preparing for this moment, preparing to be professional, to be useful, to not let his rage consume him.
"I've read your preliminary report,"
Jorik continued.
"The Scoran rejected every proposal. Kaivar was openly hostile. They consider the negotiations a failure."
He paused.
"I've also read the Scoran notification regarding Station Epsilon."
"They have my family," Blackthorn said. His voice was steady. That steadiness took more effort than anything he'd ever done.
"They do."
Jorik folded his hands on the table.
"I'm sorry, John, truly. But right now I need you to set that aside. I need the intelligence officer I used to know, not the father. Can you do that?"
Blackthorn took a breath, let it out slowly.
"Yes, sir." "Good. Tell me about the Scoran. Not the diplomatic assessment. The military one."
And something shifted in Blackthorn's mind. A door opening. A skill set he deliberately suppressed for 5 years, suddenly available again.
"They're overextended,"
he said immediately.
"Kaivar's posture was aggressive because he needs a quick resolution. The Scoran Empire has territorial disputes on 3 fronts. Their economy is heavily militarized, which means they're vulnerable to supply chain disruptions. They rely on automated logistics networks. Efficient, but fragile if you know where to strike."
Jorik's eyes sharpened.
"Go on." "Their command structure is rigid, hierarchical. Initiative is discouraged below the marshal rank. If you decapitate their leadership, the lower ranks freeze. They're also obsessed with honor codes, Specifically the concept of worthy opponents. They dismissed humanity as weak because we negotiated. If we demonstrate strength, it will force a psychological recalibration.
Blackthorn pulled up a holographic map on the table's display. His hands moved with practiced efficiency, highlighting systems, drawing vectors.
Station Epsilon is in the Kestros sector, technically neutral space, but only 2 jump points away from Scoran military staging areas. If they're holding hostages there, they expect us to petition through diplomatic channels. To beg. They're using my family to demonstrate human weakness to their own people.
And if we don't beg?
Jorik asked.
Then we surprise them.
Blackthorn's voice was cold now, clinical.
We hit them where they don't expect it. Show them that human empathy has teeth.
Jorik studied him for a long moment.
You were one of the best intelligence strategists I ever worked with, John. You left that behind for the diplomatic corps because you believed in peace.
I still believe in peace, Blackthorn said quietly, but not at the cost of my family. Not at the cost of surrender.
The Admiral nodded slowly.
The High Council has approved a proportional response. You'll be briefed on the details shortly.
He stood.
Get some rest. You're going to need it.
The High Council met in a secure chamber deep within the station's core. 12 members representing Earth's major power blocks, sitting in a semicircle around a central platform. Blackthorn stood on that platform, uncomfortably aware that his career was about to end. Council Chair Martinez spoke first.
Diplomat Blackthorn, your report has been reviewed. The Scoran Empire's actions constitute an act of war under the Galactic Convention. We are preparing our response.
Ma'am, Blackthorn said carefully, my family
will be recovered, Martinez interrupted, but not through negotiation. The Scoran have demonstrated that they only respect strength, so we will show them strength.
She pulled up a display, a fleet manifest, 50 warships, cruisers, destroyers, and carriers, the largest human military force ever assembled in one place.
First Retribution Fleet,
Martinez said.
Purpose-built for rapid strike operations and hostage recovery. It will launch in 72 hours.
Blackthorn felt his throat tighten.
I want to volunteer for. You're not volunteering.
Councilmember Zhang cut in.
We're appointing you.
Blackthorn stared.
I'm a diplomat.
You were a naval intelligence strategist,
Martinez corrected.
Commander-level tactical analysis, specialized in asymmetric warfare. You know the Scoran better than any in our military. You know their bases, their logistics, their command structure, and...
She paused.
You have more personal investment in this operation's success than anyone alive.
Special envoy with tactical authority,
Zhang said.
A unique rank created for this situation. You'll serve as co-commander of the First Retribution Fleet alongside Admiral Jorik. He handles fleet operations and logistics. You provide strategic intelligence and tactical planning. On matters of Scoran engagement, you have veto authority over military decisions.
Veto authority,
Blackthorn repeated carefully.
If you believe a military action will fail based on your knowledge of Scoran doctrine, you can override field commanders,
Martinez explained.
But you'll need to convince Admiral Jorik and your staff. Command by consensus at the strategic level, with you as the Scoran expert who can pull rank when necessary.
Martinez leaned forward.
The Scoran called human empathy a fatal flaw. They took your family to prove we're weak. We're going to prove them catastrophically wrong. You're going to get your family back, John. And you're going to do it in a way that makes the Scoran Empire regret ever underestimating humanity.
Blackthorn looked at the fleet manifest. 50 ships. Thousands of personnel. All under his command. All to recover 3 people. No, not just 3 people. To send a message. To prove that humanity's compassion wasn't weakness. It was the source of their greatest strength.
I accept,
he said. Martinez nodded.
Then I'll see you at the fleet christening ceremony, Special Envoy Blackthorn. You have 72 hours to prepare. Make them count.
The Resolve was a Valkyrie-class heavy cruiser, one of humanity's newest warships. 300 meters of reinforced hull, plasma cannons, and state-of-the-art defensive systems. Blackthorn walked onto the bridge feeling like an imposter in a uniform he hadn't worn in 5 years. Commander Eva Rostova was waiting at the tactical station. Mid-30s, sharp-featured, with the kind of posture that spoke of a lifetime in military service. She snapped a crisp salute.
Special Envoy, welcome aboard the Resolve.
Commander Rostova. Blackthorn returned the salute, trying to remember the muscle memory. I've reviewed your service record. Exemplary.
With respect, sir, I've reviewed yours as well. Naval intelligence, 3 commendations for tactical innovation. Then you disappeared into the diplomatic corps.
Her tone was carefully neutral, but the question was implicit. Can you still do this? I can, Blackthorn said simply. And I will. A holographic interface materialized between them, a blue-white projection of a humanoid figure, stylized and angular.
Special Envoy Blackthorn,
the figure said in a smooth, androgynous voice. I am Cassian, the Resolve's Strategic Operations AI. I have been briefed on our mission parameters. May I offer my condolences regarding your family's situation? Blackthorn wasn't sure if an AI could actually feel sympathy, but the gesture was something. Thank you, Cassian. I'll need your assistance plotting our approach vector.
Of course. Standard protocol would suggest a direct route to the Kestros sector via...
No. Blackthorn moved to the navigation display, his hands already pulling up star charts. Not standard protocol. The Scoran will expect us to take the obvious route. They'll have scouts watching the primary jump points. His fingers moved across the display with practiced efficiency, highlighting a series of less-traveled systems. During the negotiations, I had access to Scoran patrol schedules. They operate on a rigid 8-day cycle, rotating their destroyer squadrons through contested space. If my timing is correct, he calculated vectors, there will be a 6-hour window where the Viridian Passage is only lightly patrolled.
Rostova leaned in, studying the route. That's a narrow corridor, high radiation. Most commanders would avoid it.
Which is exactly why we're taking it. Blackthorn looked at her directly. And there's a Scoran destroyer squadron that should be transiting through that sector in approximately 14 hours. 3 ships, minimal escort. They won't expect anyone to be lying in wait. Rostova's expression shifted. Surprise, then skepticism.
With respect, Special Envoy, intercepting them alerts the Scoran to our presence before we reach Station Epsilon. Standard doctrine would be to avoid engagement until...
Standard doctrine assumes the enemy doesn't know we're coming, Blackthorn interrupted. But they do. Kaivar is expecting a diplomatic response. Petitions, negotiations, delays. He's not expecting immediate military action. If we ghost our way to Station Epsilon, he'll have time to fortify his position, move my family. But if we announce ourselves with a decisive victory, we force him to react on our timeline.
That's a significant tactical risk, Rostova pressed. If the engagement goes badly...
It won't. Blackthorn pulled up more data. I know their formation doctrine. I know their response patterns. Commander, I spent 3 years studying these people. Trust me on this. Rostova looked at Admiral Jorik, who had been observing silently. The Admiral nodded slightly.
Very well, Special Envoy, Rostova said. But if we're committing to this, I want contingency plans for...
Already drafted, Blackthorn said, pulling up tactical scenarios. Here's what we do if they call for reinforcements. Here's our escape vector if we're outmatched. I'm proposing an ambush, Commander, not a suicide run. Rostova studied the plans, then nodded with visible respect.
You really have thought this through.
I'm a strategist, Blackthorn said quietly. I just prefer when my strategies don't require bloodshed. Cassian's hologram brightened slightly.
I calculate a 73% probability of tactical success using the proposed approach. However, engaging Scoran forces before reaching Station Epsilon may alert them to our presence.
Let them know we're coming, Blackthorn said quietly. I want Kaivar to understand that this isn't a rescue mission. It's a reckoning. 14 hours later, the Resolve and its support ships, 2 destroyers and a weapons frigate, hung in the shadow of a dead moon, their energy signatures dampened to near invisibility. On the bridge, Blackthorn watched the tactical display with the patience of a hunter.
Contact, Rostova announced. 3 Scoran destroyers entering the passage. Bearing 270, speed holding steady at .6 light. Blackthorn studied their formation. The ships moved in a precise triangular pattern, maintaining exact distances from each other. It was beautiful in its rigidity.
Qatar Offensive Formation, he said. Named after a Scoran war hero from their third expansion. I read about it in their historical military texts during treaty preparation.
He pulled up a schematic on the command display.
It's designed for overwhelming firepower in a frontal assault. The lead ship acts as the spearhead. The two flankers provide covering fire. Extremely effective against enemies who meet them head-on.
Sounds effective,
Rostova observed.
It is, when both sides fight conventionally. The doctrine prioritizes forward momentum and concentrated fire so heavily that the response time to flanking maneuvers is dangerously slow. They train for frontal engagement almost exclusively. Breaking formation to address a flank attack goes against centuries of military tradition. It's not forbidden, but it's so contrary to their doctrine that commanders hesitate. By the time they decide to adapt, it's usually too late.
Rostova's eyes widened slightly.
You're saying their strength becomes a weakness if you don't play by their rules.
Exactly.
Blackthorn highlighted a gap in the formation.
If we feint at the lead ship, and then hit the left flank with massive kinetic strikes before they can pivot, we can cripple one ship before they adjust their formation. Their training emphasizes maintaining position. Breaking that pattern requires overriding ingrained instinct.
Kinetics, sir?
The officer looked confused.
Their shields are optimized against energy weapons, but kinetics are...
Slow, predictable, easily avoided in open space.
Blackthorn nodded.
Which is why they won't expect us to use them at point-blank range. Cassian, plot a micro-jump. Put us 5,000 clicks off their port side.
The AI's hologram flickered.
That is an extremely close-range jump, Special Envoy. Margin for error is...
I'm aware of the risks. Execute when ready.
The Resolve shuddered as its jump drives spooled up. Reality bent, twisted, and snapped back into place. The Scoran formation suddenly filled their view screens, close enough to see the scarring on their hulls.
Fire!
Blackthorn commanded. Kinetic penetrators, solid slugs of depleted uranium accelerated to extreme hypersonic velocities, erupted from the Resolve's launch tubes. At this range, there was no time to evade. The Scoran destroyer's shields, optimized for dispersing energy weapons, offered almost no resistance to solid matter moving with such tremendous kinetic energy. The slugs punched through the destroyer's hull like paper. Secondary explosions rippled across its frame as internal systems catastrophically failed.
Target the lead ship,
Blackthorn ordered.
Cassian, optimal firing pattern for maximum shield penetration?
Analyzing lead ship's shield harmonics,
The AI responded immediately.
Recommend alternating plasma cannon fire at 0.3-second intervals. Their shield regeneration cycle has a predictable gap. Coordinating targeting data to weapon systems now.
Energy weapons. Execute Cassian's firing pattern,
Blackthorn commanded. The Resolve's plasma cannons opened up, joined by supporting fire from the destroyers. The Scoran lead ship tried to return fire, but it was adjusting its position according to doctrine, moving forward to press the attack. Standard Cathar response. The third Scoran destroyer began to turn, its commander fully recognizing the threat and attempting to break formation to assist. But the maneuver was hesitant, the ship's trajectory showing the internal conflict between doctrine and necessity.
Special Envoy,
Cassian's voice cut through the battle chatter, calm and precise.
The turning destroyer's projected vector indicates they will complete their maneuver in 11 seconds. I recommend our frigate launch missiles at bearing 287, 3.2-degree elevation correction. This trajectory intercepts their pivot point with 94% probability.
Frigate, execute Cassian's firing solution,
Blackthorn ordered. The human frigate responded instantly, launching a spread of missiles along the AI's calculated path. That moment of hesitation cost the Scoran. By the time they committed to the turn, the missiles were already there, forcing them to abort their maneuver and go defensive. 3 minutes. That's all it took. The first Scoran destroyer was a gutted wreck. The lead ship's shields were failing. The third ship, realizing it was outmatched, transmitted a distress call and tried to jump away.
Disable their jump drives,
Blackthorn said.
I want prisoners.
Rostova looked at him with undisguised respect.
That was brilliant, Special Envoy. The way you exploited their formation doctrine.
The Special Envoy's strategy, Cassian's voice interrupted smoothly,
Fell within the top 0.3 percentile of unconventional but effective tactical solutions in my database. Cross-referencing against 17,342 recorded naval engagements across known species, this approach represents an impressive result, statistically anomalous in its success ratio given the force disparity.
There was the briefest pause, as if the AI was considering its own words.
I had not adequately weighted the value of cultural intelligence in tactical planning. I am adjusting my analytical models accordingly.
Blackthorn allowed himself a small, grim smile.
Thank you, Cassian. Log it as the Diplomat's advantage.
Logged, Special Envoy.
Blackthorn led the boarding party himself, despite Rostova's protests. He wore combat armor that felt strange after 5 years, carried a pulse rifle that his hands remembered how to hold, even if his mind felt uncertain. The breaching pod punched through the Scoran ship's weakened hull with a shrieking of tearing metal. Blackthorn was first through the opening, rifle up, scanning the smoke-filled corridor beyond. Scoran emergency lighting cast everything in harsh red. Damage control klaxons wailed. The deck was tilted at a 15-degree angle from battle damage.
Move!
Blackthorn commanded, and the Marines followed him deeper into the ship. They encountered resistance at the first intersection. 3 Scoran warriors in heavy combat armor, 2 meters tall, armed with plasma weapons that could vaporize a human in a single shot. But their armor was designed for frontal assault, not the kind of close-quarters maneuvering that followed. The human Marines scattered, using their lighter gear to advantage. They fired from cover, moved constantly, forced the Scoran to turn and react. One of Blackthorn's tactical instructors had once said that mobility was a weapon. Now, he proved it. A plasma bolt seared past his head. Blackthorn dropped to one knee, acquired his target, and put 3 shots through the Scoran warrior's helmet visor. The alien went down hard. The other 2 fell to concentrated fire from the Marines.
Bridges 3 decks up,
Blackthorn said, checking his tactical display.
Let's move.
They fought through 2 more engagements, each one ending quickly. The Scoran were brave, disciplined, deadly. But their tactical doctrine was built around large-scale engagements, not boarding actions. The humans adapted faster, improvised better. The bridge doors were sealed, but shaped charges made short work of them. Blackthorn kicked through the wreckage to find a single Scoran warrior waiting. Larger than the others, armor more elaborate, all 4 eyes burning with a barely contained rage.
I am Captain Grack,
the alien said in surprisingly good English.
This ship is mine. You will not take it.
Your ship is crippled, Blackthorn replied. Your crew is dead or captured. Surrender and you'll be treated according to the Galactic Convention.
I am Scoran,
Grack snarled.
We do not surrender to.
Blackthorn shot him. Not to kill. The pulse rifle was set to stun. Grack's massive frame crashed to the deck, unconscious.
Get him to the Resolve,
Blackthorn ordered.
Carefully. I need him alive.
The brig of the Resolve was a sparse affair. A single cell with energy barriers and minimal furnishings. Grack sat on a bench that was too small for his frame, all 4 eyes tracking Blackthorn as he entered.
You fought with honor,
Grack said grudgingly.
For a human.
I didn't come here to discuss honor.
Blackthorn pulled up a holographic display between them.
I came here to discuss Grand Marshal Kaivar.
Something flickered in Grack's eyes. Surprise? Fear?
The Grand Marshal is beyond your reach,
Grack said.
Is he acting on Imperial authority?
Blackthorn asked directly.
The detention of my family, was that sanctioned by the Emperor?
Silence.
Because I've been reviewing the legal codes,
Blackthorn continued.
Article 47 of the Galactic Convention requires Imperial authorization for detention of diplomatic families. Not just any marshal, the Emperor himself, or his designated representative.
He pulled up the relevant text.
Kaivar filed the detention order personally. No countersignature. No Imperial seal.
Grack's lower eyes closed. a Scoran sign of distress.
You know this is unsanctioned,
Blackthorn pressed.
You know that if the Emperor learns one of his marshals acted without authority, Kaivar will be stripped of rank and honor, and everyone who followed his orders will share that disgrace.
It is not so simple,
Grak said finally.
The Grand Marshal, he has reasons. But you are correct. Many of us question his methods. Detaining non-combatants, targeting a diplomat's family. These are not the actions of a warrior seeking honorable combat. They are the actions of a grieving father who has lost his way.
Tell me.
7 years ago, a territorial dispute in the Dravo sector. A minor skirmish between our forces and yours. The Grand Marshal's son commanded one of our squadrons. He died when his ship was destroyed.
Grak's voice was carefully controlled.
You were the negotiator who resolved that conflict.
Blackthorn's blood ran cold. He remembered Dravos, a short, brutal engagement that had threatened to escalate into full war. He'd spent 3 months negotiating a peaceful settlement, convincing both sides to withdraw and establish a neutral zone.
I saved hundreds of lives,
Blackthorn said.
You dishonored the Grand Marshal's son,
Grak corrected.
In Scoran culture, dying in battle is the highest honor. But you stopped the battle. You turned a warrior's death into a political inconvenience. The Grand Marshal sees his son's death as meaningless, as your fault.
He paused.
And in his grief, he has compromised his own honor by pursuing revenge through dishonorable means, taking hostages, acting without imperial authority. These things shame him as much as his son's death, but grief has made him blind to it.
Grak's voice dropped further.
In his mind, only a victory over you, the man he blames for all dishonor, can erase everything. The dishonor of his son's death, and the dishonor he now incurs to achieve that victory. It is flawed logic. The logic of a warrior consumed by grief. But it is the logic that drives him.
So this is revenge.
This is a challenge, a matter of personal honor.
Grak leaned forward.
The Grand Marshal has taken your family to his private fortress on the volcanic moon of Xylos. He waits for you there. He wants you to face him directly, warrior to warrior, so he can reclaim the honor you took from him.
Blackthorn stared at the Scoran captain.
He started an interstellar incident, risked war between our species, all for personal revenge?
You think like a human,
Grak said.
For the Scoran, personal honor is everything. The Grand Marshal would rather die than live with the shame you caused him.
He paused.
But he has made a mistake. By acting without imperial authority, by pursuing a personal vendetta, he has placed his own honor above the Emperor's law. If the Emperor learns of this,
Kaivar will be destroyed,
Blackthorn finished.
Yes, and I with him for following his orders.
Grak met Blackthorn's eyes.
But if you go to Xylos, if you face him in single combat, if you give him the warrior's death he seeks, perhaps the Emperor need never know the full extent of this dishonor.
Blackthorn stood.
You're asking me to save Kaivar's reputation after he kidnapped my family?
I'm asking you to understand that this is not war. It is one warrior's desperate attempt to die with meaning.
Grak's voice dropped.
Your family is not in danger. The Grand Marshal follows the old codes. Hostages under challenge law are sacred. They will not be harmed unless you refuse to come.
Blackthorn turned to leave, then stopped at the cell entrance.
Xylos,
he said.
How many troops does he have there?
It is his private fortress. Perhaps 100 warriors, maybe less. He does not expect an army special envoy. He expects you, alone.
Blackthorn nodded slowly.
Then that's what he'll get.
The briefing room aboard the Resolve was packed with the fleet's senior officers. Blackthorn stood at the head of the table, a holographic display of Xylos rotating between them, a hellish moon of volcanic activity and jagged mountains.
A full assault is off the table,
Blackthorn said without preamble.
Kaivar is following Scoran challenge law. If we attack with overwhelming force, he'll execute the hostages before we can reach them. It's written into their honor codes. Hostages under challenge are sacred until the challenge is resolved or violated.
Admiral Jorek frowned.
So we're negotiating again.
No.
Blackthorn pulled up schematics of Kaivar's fortress, a brutal structure of dark metal carved into the side of an active volcano.
We're adapting. Commander Rostova, I need the fleet to create a diversion. Make Kaivar think we're preparing for a full-scale assault. Draw his attention skyward.
Rostova studied the tactical display.
You want us to position for orbital bombardment?
Exactly. Make it look like we're going to glass the fortress from orbit. It'll force Kaivar to commit his forces to anti-orbital defenses. While he's distracted,
Blackthorn highlighted a narrow approach vector.
a small team infiltrates on the surface.
How small?
Yorick asked.
6, including me. Stealth shuttle, minimal signatures. We go in through the back door while Kaivar's watching the front.
Absolutely not.
Yorick's voice was firm.
Special Envoy, you're too valuable to risk on a ground insertion. Let the specialists handle.
Admiral, with respect, I know this fortress. I know Scoran security protocols. I know their blind spots.
Blackthorn met his eyes.
And Kaivar is expecting me specifically. If I don't go, the entire challenge law framework collapses.
He's right,
Rostova said reluctantly.
challenge law requires the challenged party to appear. If Blackthorn sends substitutes, Kaivar can legally execute the hostages.
Yorick looked unhappy.
It's still suicide.
It's a calculated risk,
Blackthorn corrected.
which is different. I'm not ordering anyone to come with me. I need volunteers who understand we're working with 3-year-old intelligence and a tactical situation that could change at any moment.
Cassian's hologram materialized at the table's edge.
Special Envoy, I calculate a 41% probability of mission success under these parameters. However, I should note that probability increases to 62% if you allow the team to operate without you. Your presence introduces...
Is non-negotiable.
Blackthorn finished.
This is my family. I'm going.
Rostova was quiet for a moment, then nodded.
I'll lead the orbital diversion. We'll make it convincing.
Thank you, Commander.
Blackthorn turned to the rest of the assembled officers.
I need a pilot who can fly a stealth shuttle through volcanic interference, a demolitions expert, a medic, and 2 combat specialists who are comfortable with close quarters infiltration.
5 hands went up immediately. Then 10. Then everyone in the room. For the first time in days, Blackthorn felt something like hope. The stealth shuttle Whisper was a black wedge barely large enough for its 6 occupants. Blackthorn sat in the co-pilot seat beside Lieutenant Chunbly, a pilot with more decorations for dangerous insertions than anyone in the fleet.
Entering Xylos atmosphere in 3, 2, 1.
The shuttle shuddered as it hit the turbulent upper atmosphere. Outside the viewports, the sky turned from black to orange to angry red. Volcanic ash created interference that turned their sensors into static-filled garbage.
Fleet's moving into bombardment position.
Sergeant Torres reported from the tactical station. The demolitions expert had a calm demeanor that Blackthorn found oddly reassuring.
Scoran defenses are coming online. They're buying it.
Chumbley adjusted their descent vector, threading between thermal updrafts that could tear them apart.
LZ in 3 minutes. Hold on. It's going to get rough.
Rough was an understatement. The shuttle bucked and shook as they dropped through layers of superheated air. Below them, Xylos revealed itself in all its volcanic horror. Rivers of molten rock cutting through black stone, geysers of sulfurous gas erupting without warning, jagged peaks that looked like broken teeth. The fortress clung to the side of an active volcano, its dark walls almost invisible against the scorched landscape. Automated defense turrets tracked skyward, watching for the orbital assault that would never come.
Sitting down behind this ridgeline,
Chumbley said, his hands steady on the controls despite the turbulence.
Nobody home to see us.
The shuttle touched down with barely a whisper. Living up to its name, Blackthorn and his team disembarked into hell itself. The temperature outside was 50 degrees Celsius, even through their environmental suits. The air tasted of ash and sulfur.
Stay close,
Blackthorn said over the comm.
Watch for lava flows, and don't touch anything that's glowing.
They moved across the broken landscape like ghosts, using the terrain's natural cover. Twice they had to detour around Scoran patrol routes. Once they waited, pressed flat against cooling rock, while a patrol passed within 10 meters. But they made it to the fortress perimeter without being detected.
Now comes the interesting part,
Torres said, studying the fortress walls with professional interest.
Those defenses are first-rate. Trying to breach them will trigger every alarm they have.
We're not breaching them, Blackthorn said. He pointed to a cluster of vents near the fortress base, billowing steam and heat.
We're going through them.
The team stared.
Sir,
said Corporal Davies, one of the combat specialists.
those are geothermal exhaust vents. The temperature inside
Is manageable if we time it right between cooling cycles,
Blackthorn finished.
I know because I've seen the fortress schematics. During the negotiations, there was a mandatory cultural exchange program. The Scoran showed us examples of their civic architecture. 3 hours of the most tedious presentation I've ever sat through. But I took notes.
He pulled up a detailed schematic on his wrist display.
Every Scoran fortress has geothermal power systems. They're proud of them, see them as proof of their mastery over hostile environments. But the exhaust vents are a structural weakness. They have to vent periodically or the internal heat exchangers overload. There's a 40-second window between vents where the temperature drops to survivable levels.
survivable,
Davies repeated skeptically.
I didn't say comfortable.
Blackthorn checked his chrono.
Next vent cycle in 90 seconds. Get ready.
The vent was 2 meters wide, angling up into the fortress at a steep incline. Blackthorn went first, his suit's temperature readings climbing steadily as he crawled through the metal tunnel. 40 seconds. That's all they had. 35 seconds. The tunnel opened into a maintenance shaft. Blackthorn dropped down, his team following quickly. The last member, their medic, Dr. Lin, was halfway through when the temperature alarm on Blackthorn's suit screamed.
Move!
He shouted.
The cycle's early.
Lin scrambled forward as superheated steam erupted behind her, 10 seconds ahead of schedule. Her suit's rear thermal plating took the brunt of it, warning lights flashing. They all made it through, but barely.
Everyone intact?
Blackthorn asked, breathing hard. Lin checked her suit readouts.
rear plating compromised, still functional, but I'm running hotter than safe limits.
The schematics were 3 years old,
Blackthorn said, mentally recalculating.
They must have adjusted the cycle timing for efficiency.
He looked at Taurus.
We need to move faster than planned, if other intel is similarly outdated.
We adapt.
Taurus said.
That's what we're good at.
Confirmed nods all around. They moved through the fortress with practiced silence. The corridors were stark and brutalist. Bare metal walls, harsh lighting, no decoration. Very Scoran. Blackthorn led them through maintenance passages that his stolen schematics showed as rarely patrolled. They encountered their first guard at a junction point sooner than expected. 2 Scoran warriors instead of 1, and 30 meters from where the patrol should have been. Blackthorn held up a fist. The team froze.
Patrol routes have changed, he whispered into the comm. They've tightened security since the schematics were made.
Davies moved like smoke, circling wide. Another Marine, Corporal Hayes, mirrored the approach from the opposite angle. 2 guards meant 2 simultaneous takedowns. On Blackthorn's signal, they struck. Both Scoran went down without a sound, but it had been closer than planned.
We're operating on outdated intelligence,
Torres murmured.
This is going to get harder.
Then we improvise better, Blackthorn replied. But he felt the weight of uncertainty now. 3 years was a long time. How much else had changed? They encountered 3 more guards as they penetrated deeper into the fortress. Each one neutralized quickly, efficiently, without raising an alarm. Blackthorn's diplomatic knowledge proved invaluable again and again. He knew the patrol schedules well enough to predict rough patterns, the blind spots in their security, the cultural quirks that made certain areas less monitored than others. But he had to adapt constantly, as the details proved different from his 3-year-old intelligence.
Detention level ahead,
Taurus whispered, checking his tactical scanner.
2 guards outside the main entrance. More inside.
Davies with me. Torres, cover the approach. Lynn, stay with Chumbly and watch our exit route.
Blackthorn and Davies approached the detention entrance from 2 angles. On Blackthorn's signal, they moved simultaneously. 2 guards down in seconds.
Main corridor,
Blackthorn said, moving deeper. The detention level was a series of cells built around a central monitoring station. 1 guard sat at the station, reviewing displays. Davies took him out before he could sound an alarm. Blackthorn rushed to the cells, scanning each one. Empty, empty, empty. Then,
John!
Anya's face appeared at the energy barrier of the 4th cell. Behind her, Marcus and Elena pressed close, their faces pale but unharmed.
Dad!
Marcus's voice cracked with relief. Blackthorn's hands flew across the cell controls. The diplomatic override codes he'd memorized during negotiations worked. The barrier flickered and died. Anya rushed forward, pulling him into an embrace. He held her tight, feeling her trembling, feeling Marcus and Elena pressing against them both.
I've got you, he whispered. I've got you, and we're leaving. Right now.
The children first,
Anya said, her voice steady despite her fear.
Get them out, then...
Klaxons erupted through the fortress. Red emergency lighting flooded the corridors.
No, no, no!
Blackthorn spun toward the monitoring station. Every display showed the same thing. Security alert. Intruder detected. All units converging. Then the displays changed. A single face filled every screen. Grand Marshal Kaivar.
Diplomat Blackthorn,
the Marshal said, all 4 eyes fixed on the camera.
or should I say, special envoy. You have come for your family. I am impressed. Your stealth was admirable, your tactics sound. For a human.
Let them go, Blackthorn said. This is between you and me.
Indeed it is.
Kaivar's expression was unreadable.
You took my son's honor. You turned his warrior's death into a footnote in your diplomatic success. For 7 years I have lived with that shame. Now you will give me the confrontation you denied him.
The Marshal leaned closer to his camera.
I challenge you, John Blackthorn. Single combat, command spire, top level. You arrive alone, unarmed, within the next 10 minutes. If you do so, I give you my word, by the ancient codes of challenge law, that your family will be granted safe passage. They will be escorted to your shuttle without harm.
And if I refuse?
Blackthorn asked, though he already knew the answer.
Then I will hunt them, you, your team, everyone you brought to my fortress, and they will die knowing that your cowardice killed them.
Kaivar straightened.
But you will not refuse, because despite your species' weakness, you have courage. I saw it during our negotiations, the way you fought for peace, even when you should have fought for war. Now I will see if that courage extends to facing me.
This is insane, Anya said. It's a trap.
No.
Kaivar's voice carried absolute certainty.
I need no trap. I need no advantage. I will defeat you in fair combat, John Blackthorn, and in doing so, I will reclaim the honor you took from my son. This is not about your family anymore. It is about proving that Scorin's strength will always triumph over human weakness.
He smiled, a terrible expression.
10 minutes, the command spire. Come alone, or watch your family die, knowing you chose cowardice.
The screens went dark. Blackthorn looked at his family, at Anya's terrified eyes, at Marcus trying to be brave, at Elena crying silently.
Davies,
he said quietly.
Get them to the shuttle. That's an order.
Sir,
that's an order.
Blackthorn handed his sidearm to Anya.
Torres will clear you a path. The fortress defenses are focused on the fleet. You can make it.
John, you can't,
Anya started.
I can, and I will.
He kissed her forehead, then Marcus's, then Elena's.
Trust me, I'm coming home.
He turned to Davies.
If I'm not at the shuttle in 20 minutes, you leave without me. Understood?
Davies hesitated, then nodded. Blackthorn checked his chrono. 8 minutes left. He started walking toward the command spire, toward the confrontation that would decide everything. Behind him, his family's protests faded into the distance. Ahead, Grand Marshal Kaivar waited. The command spire rose through the center of the fortress like a blade thrust into the heart of the volcano. Blackthorn climbed the endless stairs, his body aching from the infiltration, his mind focused on what came next. The throne room at the summit was exactly what he'd expected from the architectural files. A circular chamber with walls of reinforced transparasteel offering a panoramic view of Xylos's hellscape. Rivers of molten rock flowed below, casting the room in flickering orange light. The air itself felt superheated despite the environmental systems. Grand Marshal Kaivar stood at the chamber's center, waiting. He was magnificent in his ornate battle armor, burnished bronze plates etched with the names of conquered worlds, a cape of woven metal that caught the volcanic light. In his hands, he held a traditional Scoran energy pike, its blade crackling with barely contained power.
You came,
Kaivar said.
I confess I thought you might attempt some human trickery, some deception to avoid this confrontation.
I keep my word, Blackthorn replied, stepping into the chamber. The doors sealed behind him with a hydraulic hiss.
As do I. Your family is being escorted to your shuttle as we speak. I gave my oath under challenge law. They will not be harmed.
All four of Kaivar's eyes focused on Blackthorn.
But you will not leave this chamber alive.
We'll see. Blackthorn looked around the room, cataloging exits, structural weaknesses, anything he could use. His gaze lingered on the thermal conduits running along the chamber's edge. Safety releases for the geothermal systems. Hot enough to scald, controlled by manual release valves.
You are unarmed,
Kaivar observed. As you required.
And yet you seem calm.
The Marshal tilted his head.
Why are you not afraid?
Because I've spent 5 years learning everything about your people,
Blackthorn said quietly. Your culture, your language, your honor codes, your weaknesses. Kaivar's grip tightened on his pike.
Then your education ends now.
He charged. Kaivar moved with frightening speed for something his size. The energy pike cut through the air where Blackthorn's head had been a moment before. Blackthorn rolled, came up running, kept distance between them.
Kthar Vashen,
Blackthorn said in perfect Scoran. Stand with honor. Kaivar froze mid-swing.
You speak the old tongue?
I know many things you don't expect. Blackthorn circled, staying light on his feet.
I know the 63 formal challenges of the honor codes. I know the 18 forms of ritual combat. I know,
he dodged another strike,
that you're following the 4th form. The grieving father's vengeance.
How do you?
Dren Cathal Sorvak.
Blackthorn quoted from the ancient texts. The father's honor is written in his son's blood.
That's the opening verse of the 4th form's battle prayer. You want me to know why you're killing me. You want me to understand.
Kaivar's attacks became more aggressive, less controlled.
You took my son's honor. You turned his death into nothing.
I saved hundreds of lives at Dravos.
Blackthorn grabbed a piece of broken decking, used it to deflect the next pike strike. The energy blade sheared through the metal but gave him time to gain distance.
Including Scoran lives, including warriors who went on to serve with distinction.
But not my son.
Kaivar's voice was anguish given form.
He died for nothing because you stopped the battle. His death had no meaning.
The Grand Marshal surged forward with devastating speed. His offhand shot out, catching Blackthorn across the chest. The impact sent the Diplomat flying. He heard the wet crack of ribs breaking, felt the sharp edges grinding against each other as he hit the wall. The taste of copper flooded his mouth, hot and metallic. Kaivar was on him before he could recover. The pike's haft struck him across the shoulder with a sound like splitting wood. Pain exploded down his arm. The joint dislocated, tendons screaming. Then the pike caught him in the side, and Blackthorn's vision whited out for a moment, the agony so intense it overrode thought itself. He tried to roll away, but Kaivar kicked him, a casual blow that sent him sliding across the floor. The chamber tilted sickeningly. Blackthorn could feel blood running down his face from where his head had struck the wall. His left arm dangled uselessly, every movement sending fresh waves of nausea through him. Through blurred vision, he saw the energy pike swing past his face, close enough that he felt the searing heat against his cheek. The smell of his own singed hair filled his nostrils.
"You are nothing," Kaivar said. "A diplomat playing at war. You speak pretty words, but you cannot fight. You cannot win."
Blackthorn struggled to his feet, vision swimming. Blood ran from his nose. His left arm hung useless. This wasn't working. Kaivar was too strong, too fast, too skilled. Elena's face flashed through his mind, her small hands reaching for him the last time he'd left for negotiations.
Promise you'll come home, Daddy.
Marcus trying so hard to be brave. Anya holding them both, trusting him. For a moment, a terrible clear moment, Blackthorn thought he'd miscalculated everything, that he'd come all this way, brought his family this close to freedom, only to die on a volcanic moon while they watched helplessly from their cell. No, not acceptable. He analyzed through the pain. Ribs broken, left side, 3 at minimum. Left arm useless from dislocation. Vision compromised. Blood loss moderate. Mobility severely limited. Time until unconsciousness from accumulated trauma? 5 minutes, maybe less. 5 minutes to end this. One chance. Must get to the wall, the conduit. 3 years old, but the fortress layout won't have changed that much. Geothermal venting is constant, if the valve is where it should be. If. So many ifs. But it's all I have. He needed to change tactics.
"Sorvain Thak Karel,"
Blackthorn gasped. A warrior's death has meaning only if it serves the Empire. It was a quote from the Skoran Emperor's own writings. Sacred text, and it struck Kaivar like a physical blow.
"You dare quote the Emperor to me?"
I dare because it's true. Blackthorn was breathing hard now, backing toward the wall, his diplomatic studies serving him better than any weapon he didn't have.
Your son died in a territorial skirmish that had no strategic value. His death would have been meaningless regardless of how the battle ended, but you can't accept that, so you blame me. You blame the human who dared to make peace. Kaivar roared, a sound of pure rage. He charged again, abandoning form, abandoning technique. Pure fury driving him forward. Exactly what Blackthorn needed. But also exactly what might kill him. Blackthorn backed toward the transparasteel wall, toward the thermal conduit he'd noted when he entered. His left arm was useless. His vision kept blurring from the head impact. Every breath sent fire through his broken ribs. He was running on nothing but desperation, and the thin hope that his memory of the architectural files was correct. The conduits carried superheated steam from the geothermal systems. Safety releases every 15 meters. Manual valves in case of emergency. He'd studied those schematics 3 years ago during the most boring presentation of his diplomatic career. He hoped to God he remembered them right. Kaivar saw him retreating and smiled with all 4 eyes.
"Finally you show fear. Finally you understand what it means to face a true warrior." "Sorthek Vas Karel,"
Blackthorn gasped through bloody teeth. Wisdom before strength.
That's from your second Emperor's battle doctrine. The greatest victories are won before the first blow is struck.
"Enough words!"
Kaivar raised his pike for a killing strike, bringing it up with both hands.
"Die now, Diplomat Blackthorn, and let me reclaim what you—"
Blackthorn dove left with the last of his strength, his good hand finding the thermal release valve. His fingers closed around it. Please be the right one, please. And he wrenched it open with everything he had left. Superheated steam erupted from the conduit at 300 degrees Celsius. Kaivar, committed to his downward strike, couldn't change direction fast enough. The steam hit him full in the chest, found the gaps in his ornate armor, scalded the flesh beneath. The Grand Marshal screamed, a sound of pure agony. His pike clattered to the ground as he fell to his knees, steam still billowing around him. Blackthorn grabbed the energy pike. It was too large for him, designed for Scoran hands, but he managed to hold it steady as he approached the fallen marshal.
You defeated me with trickery,
Kaivar gasped, his armor smoking.
I defeated you with knowledge, Blackthorn corrected. I knew this room's layout because I studied your architecture. I knew your psychological weaknesses because I studied your culture. I knew exactly what phrases would make you angry, make you reckless, make you predictable. That's what diplomats do, Marshal. We learn, we adapt, we win without ever wanting to fight.
He leveled the pike at Kaivar's throat.
But when we do fight, we fight with everything we've learned.
His hands were shaking. The pike felt impossibly heavy. Blood dripped from his face onto the weapon's grip. His left arm hung useless, the dislocated shoulder sending spikes of agony through him with every breath, through his broken ribs, through the ringing in his skull, from where his head had cracked against the wall. If Kaivar had been even slightly less enraged, if Blackthorn had been a second slower reaching that valve, if his memory of those 3-year-old schematics had been wrong, he'd be dead. His family would be dead. But he wasn't. They weren't. Sometimes survival came down to inches, to seconds, to one desperate gamble that somehow, impossibly, worked. Kaivar's eyes closed, all 4 simultaneously, a Scoran sign of submission.
Then kill me. Grant me a warrior's death.
No. Blackthorn deactivated the pike, his legs nearly buckling.
You're coming with me.
The resolve appeared through Xylos's ash-choked sky like an avenging angel, its hull gleaming in the volcanic light. Commander Rostova's voice crackled over Blackthorn's comm.
Special Envoy, we have your family. I repeat, we have your family. They're safe aboard the Resolve.
Blackthorn felt something in his chest unclench.
Confirmed, Commander. Prepare for my extraction. And I'm bringing a guest.
He hauled Kaivar to his feet. The Marshal was wounded, humiliated, but still alive. Together they made their way to the fortress roof where a shuttle was waiting. Scoran warriors watched from defensive positions but didn't interfere. Challenge law was absolute. Kaivar had lost, and his forces were honor-bound not to intervene.
They will kill me,
Kaivar said as they boarded the shuttle.
My own people, for this dishonor.
Not if I have anything to say about it, Blackthorn replied. The shuttle lifted off, rising through the toxic atmosphere, leaving the fortress and its volcano far below. Through the viewport, Blackthorn could see the Resolve growing larger, growing closer. Home. 3 weeks later, John Blackthorn stood in the Imperial Court on Score Prime, wearing his diplomat's attire once again. But this time, the balance of power had shifted. The Scoran Emperor sat on a throne of dark metal, imposing even by Scoran standards. His armor was simpler than Kaivar's had been, but somehow more impressive. Functional, battle-scarred, earned through decades of actual combat. Beside Blackthorn, restrained but unharmed, stood Grand Marshal Kaivar.
Special Envoy Blackthorn,
the Emperor said in the old tongue.
You have requested this audience. Speak.
Your Majesty, Blackthorn bowed. Exactly the correct depth. Exactly the correct duration. 5 years of diplomatic study paying off again.
I come to return what was taken from you.
He gestured to Kaivar.
This marshal acted without imperial authority. He detained my family in violation of the Galactic Convention. He pursued a personal vendetta that brought our species to the brink of war. He placed his own honor above the Empire's law.
The Emperor's eyes, all 4, focused on Kaivar.
Is this true? It is, Kaivar said quietly. I sought to reclaim honor lost. I acted alone. You acted foolishly.
The Emperor rose from his throne.
You nearly destroyed the carefully balanced peace I have maintained. You risked everything for personal revenge.
He turned to Blackthorn.
And yet, Special Envoy, you brought him here. You could have executed him under your own laws. Why spare him?
Because I'm a diplomat, Your Majesty. I look for solutions, not revenge.
Blackthorn met the Emperor's gaze steadily.
Grand Marshal Kaivar wronged me and my family. But his actions also revealed something important. That the current treaty is flawed. That both our peoples feel constrained, dishonored, forced into positions we don't want.
What do you propose?
A new treaty. One that respects score and honor while protecting human rights. One that establishes clear protocols for contested resources while preserving both our species' dignity. One that...
Blackthorn pulled out a data slate.
I spent the last 3 weeks drafting.
The Emperor took the slate, his eyes scanning the contents. For a long moment he was silent. When he looked up, his expression was unreadable.
You bring me a rogue marshal who dishonored my throne,
he said slowly.
You also bring evidence that your fleet entered Scoran territory, destroyed 3 of our vessels, and conducted military operations on our sovereign moon, all without declaration of war or formal grievance through proper channels.
The court stirred. Several courtiers leaned forward, sensing the Emperor's displeasure.
Your actions, while understandable given the circumstances, represent a significant breach of established interstellar protocol. Many in this court would counsel me to view your fleet as an invasion force, regardless of Kaivar's crimes.
Blackthorn met his gaze steadily.
Your Majesty, we could have responded with overwhelming force. We could have declared war and moved to occupy Scoran territory. Instead, we came to restore order and return a criminal to your justice. We respected your sovereignty, even as we defended our own.
The Emperor's upper eyes narrowed.
A diplomatic answer, but you did so with warships, not through proper channels.
Because a marshal of your own court made proper channels impossible,
Blackthorn replied.
He kidnapped my family under the pretense of legal authority. We had no way to know if the Emperor himself had sanctioned it or if the entire Empire supported these actions. We chose the path that demonstrated our strength while still offering you the opportunity for justice and peace.
Another long silence. Then something shifted in the Emperor's posture. A subtle relaxation.
You defeated my marshal in single combat,
he said finally.
You proved human strength, and now you offer fair terms rather than demanding surrender.
His voice carried throughout the court.
This is wisdom. This is the behavior of a civilization worthy of respect.
He turned to his court.
This draft treaty will serve as the foundation for formal negotiations between our peoples. Humanity has proven that their empathy is not weakness. It is backed by resolve, by strength, by the willingness to fight when words fail. They will be treated as equals, not as inferiors. Your Majesty,
one of the courtiers protested.
Grand Marshal Kaivar's dishonor is mine to judge,
the Emperor said firmly.
And I judge that he acted from grief, not malice. He will be stripped of rank and exiled for 10 cycles, but he will live.
The Emperor looked at Blackthorn.
Special Envoy, your proposal is a worthy foundation. Our ambassadors will work with yours to finalize the details. This will take time, perhaps months, but you have earned our respect and begun a new era of negotiation between our peoples.
Blackthorn bowed.
Thank you, Your Majesty. That's all I could ask for.
More than you asked for,
the Emperor corrected.
You have shown us that humanity deserves a place at the table of great civilizations. We will not forget this lesson.
He paused, his expression hardening slightly.
But know this, Special Envoy. Your fleet's incursion into Scoran territory, the destruction of our vessels, the military operation on our sovereign moon, these actions will be matters our diplomats discuss at great length. You have earned our respect, but the price of that lesson has yet to be finalized. There will be reparations, concessions, long negotiations ahead.
Blackthorn bowed.
I understand, Your Majesty. and I accept those terms. Justice requires accountability from both sides.
The Emperor's expression softened fractionally.
Then we begin as equals who understand the cost of their actions. The audience is concluded. May the treaty your wisdom began bring prosperity to both our peoples.
Aboard the Resolve, John Blackthorne finally allowed himself to relax. He found his family in their quarters, Anya reading, Marcus tinkering with some piece of machinery, Elena drawing pictures of the stars. "Is it over?" Anya asked as he entered.
The fighting's over.
Blackthorne sat beside her, pulling her close.
The treaty framework is accepted, but there are months of negotiations ahead. Territorial boundaries, resource rights, diplomatic protocols. The real work is just beginning.
He smiled tiredly.
But the Skorin respect us now. They see us as equals. That's what we needed.
And what about you?
She touched his face gently, careful of the bruises.
Are you a diplomat again?
Or a soldier?
Both,
Blackthorne said.
Neither. I'm whatever humanity needs me to be.
He looked at his children, at his wife, at everything he'd nearly lost.
But for now, I'm taking leave. We're going home. The ambassadors can handle the details without me for a while.
Marcus looked up from his project.
Does that mean we can go back to Earth? To the house with the big yard?
It means exactly that.
Elena abandoned her drawing and climbed into his lap.
Tell us about the volcano moon again, Daddy. The one with the fortress.
Blackthorne held his daughter close, feeling her warmth, her trust, her absolute certainty that he would keep her safe. And he realized that this moment, this family, this peace he'd fought so hard to protect, this was worth every risk he'd taken.
Once upon a time, he began, there was a diplomat who forgot how to fight.
Outside the viewport, the stars streamed past as the Resolve set course for Earth. Behind them, the Skorin Empire and humanity stood at the beginning of a new relationship. Not instant peace, but the foundation for it. Built not on conquest or submission, but on mutual respect earned through strength and wisdom. Because sometimes, the greatest victories are won not by the strongest warrior, but by the wisest negotiator who knows when words must become action, and when action must become words again. And John Blackthorne had proven he could be both.
Hello, my all members, subscribers, followers. I said that my channel is low on channel, and I have submitted some videos in English to change the motto of my channel. Please subscribe my channel, view my videos, and share in all of your friends on Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, every social media platform to send my video and view more videos. Viewers in my video, please help me to provide some time to spend with me. Thank you to all members who can subscribe my channel and support me some time. Please view more video and entertainment video. Please help me sometime to support my channel because I am a low middle class family. Please help me.